What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint, kind of the Smark at Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice
Hey,
and Callum Wiggins.
look up to it, everyone.
Yeah, we're talking TNA Lockdown here. No, well, I don't even know how to really qualify or explain what we're talking about here in like a simple form. We should be talking NXT TakeOver Tampa, but that's not happening. And instead, what's happening is they're taking some of the matches that would have been taking place at NXT TakeOver Tampa, and they're going to do them on the next couple of episodes of NXT. And supposedly they've already recorded some of these. It seems like they pretty much should have, because if not, they're not going to end up airing them because there's the whole lockdown stuff's happening. So if they didn't record it, I don't know how they're going to be able to. But instead of WrestleMania being the way that it normally has been, with the whole Hall of Fame and then SmackDown and then NXT TakeOver on Saturday and then WrestleMania on Sunday and then Raw on Monday, like that whole plan that we had going for the whole year, it's WrestleMania is a 2-day thing. One of those days takes over TakeOver, so that's how we're kind of in this sort of situation. So to compensate for that, and to give you guys predictions of some of those matches, no matter what is going on, we're doing our predictions now. And I guess I'm going to say that it's just TakeOver predictions, kind of, but I don't really know 100% for sure. So that's basically what we're doing here. We're doing our predictions, but we're doing them in advance for a little bit. One of it starts next week, next April. Very tired. April 1st is when they start. April 8th is when two of those matches are happening. So we're going to talk the things that lead up to it as well, because we're getting matches that lead up to the matches that lead up to the matches, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing here. I apologize in advance for my stuffy nose and me being tired. And if you want to fill in the gaps of what we're saying with your thoughts, then go ahead and drop a comment below on YouTube. If you have not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and do that while you're over on the YouTube channel. Ring that little notification bell as well, because that way you'll be aware of when new videos get posted, as well as when we eventually go live for different things, because so far we've done 2 little live tests. One of them at like 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night or so, and another one at like 5 in the morning. So,
The one that started at 9 went to 5 in the morning.
It kind of seems like that's the case. If we just goof off, we'll just keep doing it for hours and hours. But we're still trying to get that sorted out. And thankfully, some people like Peter and Bobby and whatnot have been helping us try to figure out some of our audio and video issues. And I think I might have actually figured out one of the video issues that we were having the last time. So, eventually, if we're really kind of pressed for content, we're still trying to figure out what's going on, we might just goof off for a while or something, and we'd love to have you guys a part of that. So if you subscribe to the channel and you ring that little notification bell, then you will actually get the email alerts to know when we're live and be able to join in and do some fun stuff with us. And while you're over there, you should like the videos and drop a comment below, as I mentioned before. And if you are listening to us on the platforms that don't have comments, like Spotify and Stitcher and iTunes and Google and whatnot, then leave a star rating if they have that there, because that's greatly appreciated. But we'll move on to plenty of other plugs later on. Let's talk about NXT. Let's talk about TakeOver. Let's talk about just the unknowns and the knowns. One thing that we do know now, as far as not that long ago, is that we are not getting NXT UK TakeOver Dublin at the end of April. And even though that's not the same thing as TakeOver Tampa, there are some things that go along with that. One of them being, it seemed like their game plan was to do Finn Balor versus Walter at TakeOver Tampa, and that they would have gotten that out of the way with or without the NXT UK title on the line. I don't know why my phone is going off right now, but that can't really happen and go in the same exact direction that they would have gone with before, because now we know at the very least that Ilya Dragunov is supposed to be the next challenger for the championship. Whether or not we're going to get that anytime soon is completely up in the air, but if that happens, kind of seems a little strange to do Walter versus Finn Balor and then, not know exactly where that is placed. But you can't even get Walter versus Finn Balor if he can't travel. So we're getting a TakeOver Double in October. And there are far many 2 months to just kind of carry this thing going forward. So my first question is not even about TakeOver Tampa. It's just about this whole situation. What do you guys think is going to end up happening with Finn Balor and Walter?
I imagine it's just going to be dropped and maybe revisited a lot further down the line when things are all settled, because even if certain lockdowns in different countries were to be lifted, I don't know how long it's going to take for certain countries to accept travel from other destinations into their countries. It's all too far up in the air at the moment to really determine that it's. I imagine the match will happen eventually, but I couldn't even begin to predict when it will happen or where.
I think that the second these things are, everything passes with coronavirus and everything is good and travel is normalized again, you will get some version of what TakeOver Tampa was supposed to be, maybe plus or minus a match or two.
I'm wondering if we are able to get any kind of mini takeover type of thing going on. I mean, I got a feeling that Tampa might want something if they're able to get something at some point, and NXT UK is a different animal entirely because they pre-tape things and stuff, but I kind of can't imagine that they're just going to have Balor versus Walter on a random episode of NXT UK and pre-tape it and just be like, all right, that's just a thing. But they might. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the WWE doesn't really give a shit right now because they have plenty of other things that they're worried about. So at the very least, if that was supposed to happen to TakeOver Tampa, not happening now and completely up in the air. And if they drop it and come back to it later, or they drop it and never come back to it, I guess we'll find out.
But I think the beauty of it is it's a match you can build up anytime. It's not like there's real time constraints to it or anything like that. As long as these two are fit and healthy to work, then you can do it basically anytime. People will be interested in it because it's a match that a lot of people haven't seen before.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a problem with flat out just saying those two are fighting and having people be like, oh, I don't want to see this match. There's no real build. People are going to watch that for the match itself, not for all the other stuff that goes along with that, It's not like it's the Randy Orton and Edge thing or something where it's the feud is actually the story. To a certain extent. Maybe that's not the best example, but they can go with just that's happening. Isn't it a big match? Kind of like a Worlds Collide type thing where they didn't bother building anything up and they were just sort of like, this is a match. You want to watch it? For the most part, people were like, all right. Or people are like, what the hell is Worlds Collide? So we do know that we're getting some other things, though. One of them being next week, we're getting a triple threat for the North American Championship. And that is Keith Lee defending against Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest. This came about because Damian Priest has attacked both of them over the past couple of weeks. And in the process of that, Keith Lee didn't realize that Dijakovic was actually trying to help him out and thought that he was the one that had attacked him. So he laid him out. And now they're just doing a triple threat. And I think it's kind of the best case scenario. Dijakovic and Lee, we know, have amazing chemistry together. And Priest has actually been pretty interesting over the past couple of months. So I'm 100% down for this. I think that this is going to be a killer match. Of course, it would have been a hell of a lot better if there would have been people involved, in the crowd and stuff like that. But I have the utmost faith that these three are going to absolutely kill it. And as far as the winner goes, I don't know. I'll come back to that. I'm not 100% sold that it's going to be Keith Lee. How you guys feeling about this?
it should be a very good match because of all the people involved. Let's say it's all going to be better if it had a crowd involved, but I think these three are capable enough of putting a strong match together. You can have the instances of like having all three people doing spots together. They can do spots on their own. There'll be dives to the outside. It will be like really athletic. It'll be. I'm worried that I don't think Priest is good, very good. I don't know whether he can keep up with sort of like absolutely remarkable levels of athleticism that both Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic present. But he can definitely do bits and pieces with it. It's interesting to have this sort of like just three pretty just big dudes fighting it out, but then realizing that there's going to be tons of Spanish flies and dives over the top rope and everything like that. I think it'll be entertaining. I'm not certain about who's going to win it right now. I mean, logic would probably dictate it's going to be Keith Lee because it seems odd to do a title change right now in any situation, but they're going to have to do, if they're going to keep doing shows, they are going to have to do title changes every now and again. So I wouldn't be shocked if it went to. I'd say if Keith Lee doesn't retain, it would be Priest that wins. I don't think Dijakovic is winning it.
I would say, just like Callum said, you look at this match, it's like, oh wow, that's awesome, dude. Three, big guys are about to tear it up, and you realize they're gonna probably do more high-flying maneuvers than Rey Mysterio would at this time, and it's gonna be fun to watch. It's obviously gonna be missing that crowd aspect. All of the matches are because NXT relies so heavily on that. If I had to guess, I would say title change, and I want to say Damian Priest. I think they like him. I think he's a character they can build around and play with, and it would make the show newsworthy.
Yeah, here's my thought process when it comes to this. Keith Lee is definitely somebody that a lot of people woke up to since like October, and it feels like everybody's kind of on the same page about Keith Lee. It's that if you're not buying into him being the now, you're at least buying into him being the future to a certain extent. So it wouldn't shock me if we're in a situation where I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, but Velveteen Dream may not be the next NXT champion. And if he is not able to beat Adam Cole, I can't imagine it going to Ciampa or Gargano or kind of just retreading the same sort of things again. So at that point, who's the next in line? And I got to feel like Keith Lee's probably that guy. So it kind of wouldn't shock me if Keith Lee were to lose this title here in a triple threat, get people talking, get people wanting to watch NXT, maybe have Priest pin Dijakovic if you really want to protect Keith Lee, or maybe something else happens along those lines or something like that. And you take the belt off of him so that way in a month or two or whenever this whole, whether or not they're able to film and all of that, that's of course completely up in the air. But maybe mid-June or something like that, you do something with Adam Cole and Keith Lee, and Keith Lee wins that title instead. Wouldn't shock me. I don't think that that's a guarantee. I don't think that anything's really a guarantee at this point, especially because we don't know what's happening with the future of WWE and NXT and filming things and stuff like that. But if there's a title change to happen, it could be this. So next week, I'm going to have it set up ahead of time that there's a title change, because if it happens, I want to be able to post it as soon as possible. And even though I feel like there's a very, very good chance that Keith Lee wins or retains, I do feel like if he loses the belt, he loses it to Damian Priest. I don't think that it goes to Dijakovic. Big fan of Dijakovic. This isn't me like saying that he shouldn't win it or something like that, but I could see Dijakovic beating Priest for it down the line and kind of doing that kind of a thing or something like that. So I think if I had to make a decision for next week, I would stick with Keith Lee retaining because there is a chance that maybe somebody else comes along, like Killer Cross, and beats him for the title. But it wouldn't shock me if we got a new champion. One of the other things we're getting next week is the second chance gauntlet match for the final qualifying spot in the NXT Women's Championship #1 Contenders ladder match. That was supposed to happen at TakeOver Tampa, and of course it's not happening there. It's happening on April 8th. So the current field that we have, because we might as well talk about the gauntlet match and then the match itself. We currently have Candice LeRae, Chelsea Green, Mia Yim, Io Shirai, and Tegan Knox in the match. And the second chance gauntlet match that's happening next week is going to consist of everybody who's had a chance but failed. Obviously, that's what second chance is about. So that's going to have Aaliyah, Dakota Kai, Deonna Purrazzo, Kaden Carter, Shotzi Blackheart, and Xia Li. Xia Li. Yeah, not Xia Li. Xia Li. How this came about for anybody who is not aware of how they've been doing things lately, they had a couple different qualifying matches. Chelsea Green beat, I believe it was Shotzi Blackheart. Dakota Kai and Mia Yim had their match. Tegan Knox beat Deonna Purrazzo. And Candice LeRae recently beat Kaden Carter. And Aaliyah was supposed to face Xia Li. But Xia Li and Aaliyah had a match 4 months ago. It seems like it's not that long, but that's how it was. Where Aaliyah was, quote unquote, her nose had gotten broken. And the story for this was actually that she wanted to get a nose job and they just wrote her out that way. So instead, Xia Li was not able to compete against Aaliyah because Aaliyah had attacked her backstage and fucked up her knee. And Io Shirai came in and beat her anyway. So that's, Aaliyah loses her match despite the fact that she was supposed to win by forfeit. And now we're in this gauntlet match scenario trying to find the last spot. So first question, who do you think gets the final spot?
Dakota Kai.
Very much
pretty-
agree.
Dakota Kai.
Pretty black and white, really. Like I would, if I was to rank them in order of which ones I feel is most likely, Dakota Kai probably has about 80% of my vote. Then the next one down would probably be Shotzi Blackheart because I think they see a lot of potential in her, so they might push her forward. Then it's kind of like a mismatch of Xia Li, Deonna Purrazzo, and Lacey Lane as being okay, these guys are decent workers. They'd be able to probably fit into a ladder match environment pretty well. And then Aaliyah's at the bottom because Aaliyah is Aaliyah.
I'm assuming what they do here, and they might not, because we thought that there was going to be a different setup for the gauntlet match at Super Showdown. But I'm assuming what they do is they go with 3 baby faces and 3 heels, and they should probably make that easy enough to have Aaliyah versus Xia Li start the gauntlet match. One of them, probably Xia Li beats Aaliyah, and then maybe I don't know, Kaden Carter comes in or something, and then Kaden Carter's a babyface, but maybe Deonna Purrazzo comes in, beats her, then beats Kaden Carter, and Shotzi Blackheart beats her, then Dakota Kai beats Shotzi, some kind of thing like that. But they should theoretically have Reina Gonzalez, or actually, what's her name now? It's not Reina Gonzalez, Raquel Gonzalez. And she should make a difference between that. It's funny, we're all just going Dakota Kai here because I had it written down in my predictions originally that Io Shirai was my guarantee kind of pick to win the ladder match. And then it eventually changed to, well, if Dakota Kai finds her way some way in this, then she becomes kind of my pick a little bit. And now I'm a little bit 50-50. I was 60-40, now I'm more 50-50. I don't know which one of those two I go with to win this ladder match. One of those two makes more sense to me than Chelsea, Mia, Tegan, or Candice, though. You guys in agreement?
I think Dakota makes the most sense because she's still the hot heel on the NXT women's side. And I think that I don't want to say they burned through Io because Io is a different character than she was when she was fighting Shayna. But I think Io's gotten a few shots. I think if you really wanted to tell a nice babyface story, you could go with Candice, but Dakota Kai getting a little boost from Raquel Gonzalez to get up the ladder and win seems like a good way to go.
I think it's fundamentally predetermined by, it's determined by who we expect to win the Charlotte Flair Rhea Ripley match. Because if Rhea Ripley wins, then it would make sense to have Dakota Kai win the match, or Io Shirai or somebody like that. If Charlotte Flair becomes the new NXT Women's Champion, then yeah, you go with Candice. You can basically go with everyone because it's pretty much going to be a fresh matchup. Because Charlotte hasn't really wrestled any of these people before. So I don't know at the moment. Like, I feel like they might have missed the boat a little bit on the Dakota Kai heel turn. They should have tried to capitalize on it quicker. And she's kind of just been middling around. I mean, she didn't lose the feud to Tegan Nox, but she's been getting the outside help from Raquel Gonzalez. She lost to Mia Yim. Like, if she was going to be the person that they would fundamentally saying, okay, we're definitely going to Dakota Kai, they could have just had her beat Mia Yim and go through. I feel like instead they're going to. I mean, I would personally put Io, but that's because I think Io is the best wrestler out of all of them. Realistically, I think it's going to be Tegan Nox. Because I think Charlotte's beaten Rhea Ripley. So
really,
yeah,
Charlotte is 100% winning that title, right?
No,
I don't say 100%, but that would be my, if I gun to my head, that's my prediction.
I feel like it's almost a guarantee that Ripley's winning.
If it was in Raymond James, sure. But now they have to make it special beyond, the NXT superstar beat the WWE superstar. I think Charlotte wins.
Yeah, I feel like they're not going to bother about, like, we need to make it special. I feel like their philosophy for WrestleMania is a little bit more along the lines of just, like, get it out of the way. And if that's the case, I feel like status quo is a lot easier to maintain. Because if you give the belt to Charlotte and you can't record anything, kind of what's the point? You know what I mean? But if you have Rhea Ripley beat her, then you can perpetually talk about, remember that Rhea Ripley beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. She's like the best champion that we've ever had, that kind of a thing. Ripley gets something more out of it than Charlotte does. If Charlotte beats her, then it kind of pushes Ripley down as like, you were hot shit for a month, and then it didn't matter.
Well, yeah, just because it makes a bit more sense for the person to beat Charlotte at WrestleMania doesn't mean that that's always happens, because Asuka should have beaten Charlotte at WrestleMania and she didn't.
And Roman Reigns should beat Brock Lesnar twice.
And Shinsuke Nakamura arguably should have beaten AJ Styles. Yeah, there's plenty of examples.
So they could go with, I'm not saying it's the right decision to go with Charlotte over Rhea Ripley. I just think that's the way they're going to go. And in which case, I think it's more likely the babyface wins this match. But I think it's a crowded field, and the only one that I'm certain wouldn't win is Mia Yim. Other than that, it's kind of all up in the air.
I would go with Dakota as my main to win, Candice as my second, and Io, and then everybody else.
I'd rank the three heels because I just think that Ripley's winning, and then in that kind of capacity, it's like, all right, right now I'm leaning a little bit more towards Dakota Kai, even though my current page says 60-40 on Io's end, because I feel like Io has a good chance to actually be the one that beats Ripley for the title down the line. And if that happens, then they probably shouldn't just do it now. But we're in a completely different scenario than I expected that we would be even a couple weeks ago, because I remember talking about the idea that it felt like Bianca Belair would go up to Monday Night Raw right after WrestleMania, that she could win the Battle Royal, like all these other different types of things that we're just not getting. So
breaking news. The Performance Center has been closed because of Corona.
So that's for a buzzkill and everything.
Curious how much they recorded. If they didn't record it already, then they're kind of fucked when it comes to that, and we might not even get this match or any of the other matches.
Hold on. So the Kevin Aioli, who covers MMA and boxing for Yahoo Sports, is the one that proclaimed this, and now I'm getting something that says it. Well, it was already set to close at 11 p.m. tonight because of the lockdown in Orange County, but Kevin Aioli is saying it's closed now. I don't know. I hope they've recorded enough. This is all a mess. This is 2020.
Can we just like restart this fucking year? Like, I mean, quite literally, my year started off with me taking a chunk out of my finger and passing out on January 1st. So this has just been a hell of a year. You got that going on. You got so many other things. Just we need a do-over. Not just in the world of pro wrestling, but it seems like that's the case there too. But I guess we'll see. Maybe we don't even get this match or any other ones we're talking about. And if that's the case, well, we're doing this prediction thing, assuming that that's the case, because WWE hasn't announced anything otherwise. So
they might be able to find somewhere else to film them.
Maybe. We do have the whole empty building type thing, and maybe they're kind of banking on that or something. I don't know. But a ladder match itself, I don't even know if there's necessarily a means for them to do that at the Performance Center.
Here, AEW has a building available.
So. Maybe not for long if the other counties in Florida follow suit.
Might be so. But what about Full Sail? I know that they closed down for themselves.
Orange County.
Oh, that's Orange County too? Okay. Well, there goes that. If they have the means to find another building and film somewhere else, they'll figure out a way to go somewhere and do that, I guess. But I kind of assume, at least with this ladder match, the ladder match itself is not there to put over Mia Yim. It's not there to put over Candice or Tegan or like Chelsea, for instance. Like, I think she's in there to show you that she's going to be a player and not to be the winner, because they're kind of a little bit 50-50 about her with like pushing her. Sometimes it seems like they're pushing her really far, really fast, and sometimes it seems like they're backing off on that. So I'm getting the impression that she's just kind of like, look, wait a little bit. She'll be something. We want to let you know that she's going to be something, but we don't want to beat you over the head with it, which I think is probably the right way to go. So I can't imagine Chelsea Green wins this. And if it's Io or it's Dakota Kai against Rhea Ripley, that's a different scenario than obviously if Charlotte Flair wins. But I think that Charlotte's not going to win that title, so I'm leaning more towards those two. And between them, I think it's easier to go with Raquel and Dakota kind of being like a 2-on-1 against Ripley for whenever the hell we can do this, whether it's May or fucking 2023, the way that things are going or something. I don't know. No matter who wins this gauntlet and gets in, and then whoever wins this ladder match, obviously we don't know who they were going to fight, but do you think that we potentially get any of these people as the next NXT Women's Champion?
Yes, Dakota.
I think you could have Dakota and Tegan feuding over it at some point. I think Io Candice potentially is like a long-term story. But I thought even if this coronavirus stuff did last to 2023, I think that would probably have taken, even if this didn't happen, I think it would probably take that long for Candice to win the NXT Women's Championship. I think Io will be moved up before she wins it. And Chelsea's a bit like it's a bit too soon to tell. And Mia Yim, I don't think Mia Yim will win it. I think she's just there as a steady hand.
One match that we have no idea if we're getting in any capacity is anything with the NXT tag team titles. And it seems like part of the reason why that's the case is because Pete Dunne can't travel. So I'd imagine that they're not going to have anything going on until that clears up. But we had been building up this whole thing with the Bruiserweights and the Undisputed Era and grizzled young veterans. Now, if grizzled young veterans can't travel, that's another thing. But we got something weird this week. Last night, they did a thing where Rinku Singh and Saurav Gurjar, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'm pretty sure I got Rinku Singh right. But those two attacked Matt Riddle, and Malcolm Bivens came out to introduce them. He didn't say their names, so that's why I don't know how to pronounce them. But he basically put everything on notice, the idea that they're the future of the tag team division, and now it's the best time to attack Matt Riddle because Pete Dunne's not there and that kind of a thing. So we've got this tag team brought into the mix. We gotten a lot of people over these past couple of weeks that have not been a part of the regular NXT just because they're around and they're available. Like Brendan Vink has been wrestling like all over the place, and Leon Ruff is not a part of NXT, but he's gotten his ass kicked by Aleister Black twice now. So, or I think it was Aleister Black twice. Or maybe it might have been somebody else beat him. But the Bruiserweights seem like they're apart for the time being, and if we can't get Gibson and Drake, maybe in the meantime we got Singh and Gurjar. And without Pete Dunne being a part of the mix, the tag team titles pretty much shouldn't and can't be defended. But what do you think's happening with that? Do you think that we're going to get anything going on with that? Are we going to get like Singh versus Riddle and Singh versus Gurjar over the next couple of weeks? Or is that just something that they're doing right now just to get people to talk, and then they probably don't have anything else in the can?
Well, I don't think we're gonna get Singh versus Gurjar because that would be weird to put a new tag team
Did I say it?
opposite each other. Yeah, you did. But I think we get some beat downs, and then as soon as Pete Dunne is cleared to travel, we're gonna see them have a tag team title match. And listen, I said this yesterday on the WrestleZone show. NXT does big guy tag teams right. So I have faith that Singh and Gurjar will be a good pairing in NXT. I would never want to see them get moved up because NXT makes good tag teams and the main roster destroys them. But I think there's a good chance they will definitely be the next tag team champions.
I think just due to the fact that Pete Dunne won't be there for a while and we don't know how long, they should just build these guys up as, okay, they attacked one of the tag team champions to start with to get a bit of heat beneath them. But then they should just start squashing some low-level tag teams, some local teams, then eventually move up to teams like Lorcan and Birch, people like that. So earn some victories and then come back later on. Because I feel like if you put one of them against Matt Riddle, you're not going to have one of them on their own beat Matt Riddle.
Right.
So you immediately kind of pull the rug from under them if you just have them both lose singles matches to Matt Riddle.
I mean, they're big dudes. So the only thing that I've seen them in is that one Worlds Collide Battle Royal situation where they kind of impressed me, and I'm sure that they've gotten better since then. And I could buy them being the next Ascension to a certain extent. Like, just two huge dudes. They fit the bill of like the AOP Ascension type of mold where, you know, every so often we get these like, you know, this big dominant person who comes in, and then we get like the workhorses and stuff like that. So we've had plenty of like the Revival and American Alpha and the Undisputed Era, like people that can wrestle amazing tag team matches because they're on like the technical side of things, and maybe they want to switch things up a little bit and have these big dudes just beat the crap out of people. But we don't know what the whole situation is with the filming stuff. We keep mentioning that because it keeps having to be mentioned. And maybe if this all clears up in a couple weeks, maybe we get Singh and Gurjar against the Bruiserweights around June or July or something like that. Maybe they are the next tag team champions. I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath on anything at all happening with these titles for the time being, because I don't think that there's pretty much any way for them to navigate these waters in a way that makes a whole lot of sense. Well, we'll see.
There is obviously the potential, and I hope they don't do this because it seemed like a real waste of time, but they could strip Riddle and Dunn of the titles because they can't defend them. So they could vacate the titles and then have these guys win them against Lorcan and Birch or some other team like that. Make
Yeah,
them the
they
tag
could
team
do
champions for a
that.
while. And then when Riddle and Dunn are able to reunite and come together, then they feud over the titles instead.
And if they wanted to, it depends on, of course, if they can film in different scenarios and stuff like that. If they could film, say, I don't know. I mean, let's just put it out a random ass number. Of course, I have no information about anything like that. But like, let's just say they're able to film outside of the performance center, and they're able to film matches that lead all the way up until the end of May or beginning of June or whatever it is. If they're able to do that and they want to get around this whole not having Riddle and Dunn, they could very easily do that and just say, well, this is one of those situations and stuff, and have new tag team champions and carry that going forward. That would make a whole lot of sense. I don't think that they would apply that to pretty much anybody because I think that they don't want to call attention to the 30-day thing that they don't really necessarily hold. It's not like it's like an official sports thing, but whenever they want to, they always can. And they could do that kind of bullshit where they would be like, William Regal said, well, unfortunately, Matt Riddle, you didn't defend the tag team titles. And I don't want them to do a situation where they would have like Riddle beat both of them, Singh and Gurjar, like a handicap match to defend the tag team titles or something like that. They could do that, but those two are not people that I want to see get beaten by one guy. That would be more so like Shane Thorne and Brendan Vank. Then I'd be okay with it. So at the very least, if we don't get anything soon, we might not get anything at all. But if we do, maybe these guys come in and they win those tag team titles. Maybe the Bruiserweights keep them for the meantime and they just wait and everything's on hold. I'm expecting nothing with grizzled young veterans to begin with because I don't think that they can travel. And if you can't travel, you can't do anything. So, I don't know. The NXT Cruiserweight Championship is kind of up in the air. That is not a situation that seems like it's a part of TakeOver Tampa to begin with anyway, but Jordan Devlin is going to be facing Tyler Bate, and I think actually it happened earlier today. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't check NXT UK yet, but spoilers are out there. He's still a champion. So at some point, we're going to get something with that in the future. I don't think we're getting anything anytime soon, but do you guys think that we're going to get anything at all with this?
No.
No, I think it's just going to go under the radar for a while.
Yeah. Especially because Devlin doesn't live in the United States. So,
yeah. It's a bit of a shame they put most of their titles on British guys that can't travel.
Very quickly, before we move on to the next two, or the last two, I guess, things that we're going to talk about, I'm going to toss out a couple of different
Hold on,
plugs.
Rhea lives in America, right?
She does now. Yeah, she lives in Florida now.
Yeah, Florida,
okay,
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, good. Okay.
I think the only people that they're worried about would be, well, not that they're necessarily worried about, would be Brock, Robert Roode, the Singh brothers. Owens doesn't live in Canada, does he?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't believe he lives there anymore. I think he lives in Florida as well.
Yeah, and Sami Zayn doesn't. I don't think. So there might not be a whole lot of issues with that. Then we've got oh wait, I wanted to do plugs. That was the whole point of me doing plugs. Patreon is something you guys should be aware of. If you are not, then here's a quick breakdown. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment is a way for us to keep this going and to not only just keep the lights on, but to do some interesting things along the process. So if you want to show your support, and if you can show your support, of course, because this is trying times for everybody, and I completely understand if people don't have a couple pennies to rub together, but if they do, and you want to toss $1 our way, $5, $10, whatever it is, to keep doing some different things, then patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. Take advantage of the different tiers. Even $1 goes a long way, especially the more that people do that. And $5 gives you the ad blocks forgiveness. $10 and up gives you access to the Patreon exclusive dark casts. And If you want to take advantage of the mailbag or the pick your poison tier, then those tiers are optional, and you can do those kind of things at your leisure. So that is something to definitely keep in mind if you want more Smart Out Moment content during this whole quarantine situation, because the more that we have coming in from Patreon, the more that I'm able to set aside the time to be able to do that. Because oddly enough, it seems like you wouldn't be able to work a whole lot during a quarantine thing. I've been working more just to try to get the same amount of money that I normally would have. And that makes things even harder to do Smart Out Moment stuff than normal. But if things dry up and things go crazy, then I don't know what we're going to get. And we might get a whole lot more from Smart Out Moment. We might get a whole lot less. It kind of depends on what you guys are able to do. And I am incredibly in so much gratitude. You have no idea for the people that have donated to different things and show your support in any kind of capacity, whether it's sharing things or liking things or on the monetary side of things or whatever it is. If you're picking up a t-shirt on Redbubble or TeePublic, that's awesome as well. Go ahead and check out those designs if you're interested. And even the people that show support for Fanboys Anonymous, because the same thing's happening over on Fanboys as Smart Out Moment, except for you switch up the idea of, not sure if we're getting wrestling content versus we know for a fact we're not getting any movies. So you're not getting any review points coming out anytime soon that are like brand new releases, other than the fact that I haven't seen like Bloodshot. So maybe I'll check that out or something. But if you want us to do more on the Fanboys Anonymous side of things and want more geek culture content like movie reviews and TV stuff and video game talk, and maybe we'll do some live stuff on Fanboys as well. I don't know. It's all up to you guys. So show up with the support brigade on that as well. And we'll do whatever we can, whenever we can. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel there, ring that little notification bell as well. You'll be aware of whenever any kind of videos go up on that. So plugs are out of the way.
Brief update. Looks like that the reporter is not aware of what he's talking about, and we might be all good to go with WrestleMania at least.
That's the way the things are going nowadays. It's the updates are updates to the updates, so then they go back and they change things. I know that a couple minutes ago, one of the most trustworthy things, WrestleVotes, had put up a thing saying, remember this tweet, and no, it's not getting postponed. And the tweet to remember is from March 19th of, spoke with a source that states, and this is a direct quote, a majority of the talent are still hoping that Mania gets postponed. Take that as you will. So who knows what this is in reference to, because if it's kind of remember the fact that I said that there was a thing that's happening that's not happening, or I don't know, that's kind of just question marks all over the place. One thing that's not a question mark, though, is whether or not Velveteen Dream is going to beat Bobby Fish. We're getting that next week. And the whole point of this is to lead up to Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream, but they have not announced when that's going to happen. I would assume it's either happening on April 8th or April 15th. I bring up April 15th because we currently have that ladder match and the other match we're going to talk about, Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, on April 8th. So, question number one, I guess, to you guys, do you think we're getting Cole versus Dream on April 8th?
No.
Not that soon, I don't think.
All right, so we're all in agreement here that that's not happening there. It might, but we don't think that that's the case. I think that it's happening on April 15th if they're able to record it, because they wouldn't want to put everything on the same show. And if you're able to put an NXT Championship match on April 15th, that is already a draw for that episode without having to have anything else on there. And if you get the ladder match and you get the Ciampa Gargano match, that already can eat up the 2 hours for the most part. I don't expect them to both be hour-long matches, but maybe one of them's a half an hour and the other one's 45 minutes or something like that. Or maybe they do in fact do an hour-long Gargano and Ciampa. They could. They can make it an Iron Man match type thing, you know?
It's very possible.
And if that's the case, there's not room for Cole and Dream. There's maybe room for, this 45 to 60 minute or whatever Gargano Ciampa thing, and you get like a 20, 30 something minute ladder match, and then you toss another thing that's out there that's just kind of, Cameron Grimes beats somebody or whatever. So Cole and Dream, since they didn't say that was April 8th, it would seem strange to me that next week they would just go. And that's happening next week on NXT. You'd want to kind of grease the wheels a little bit earlier than that, I think. When that happens, because that will happen at some point, Cole or Dream, who you got?
I think, especially by NXT standards, this has been an absolutely terrible feud. Because it's booked all wrong. Dream is being made out to look like a heel when he's supposed to be a babyface. Like, it's going after Roderick Strong's family and putting their faces on his tights. That's like, yeah, if you're going to be like the top babyface challenging the top heel for the world title, you probably shouldn't mirror Rick Rude's character. This doesn't really work that well. Having said that, people still get behind Velveteen Dream a great deal, and I think they want to have some a homegrown performance center talent win the title, because I don't think they've really had someone who's been in that kind of capacity since Bo Dallas won title.
Well, there's Big E.
Big E was before Bo Dallas.
Oh wow. Okay, so I guess that's it.
Yeah. So I think I think Dream will win the title over Adam Cole. I mean, Cole's held it for like nearly a year now at this point, so makes sense to me.
He is the longest reigning champion right now. So they could kind of have a little bit more of like not like a trigger finger or a need to like switch things up, but they could probably think it's time. Yeah, he's had the longest reign. He's run its course. He's had his Ciampa match. He's had his Gargano match, that kind of thing. So, I mean, who else would beat him for the title other than, we were talking earlier, Keith Lee? If it's not Velveteen Dream and it's potentially not Keith Lee down the line, who else do you give it to,
There's guys like Killer Cross. You can always create some infighting within the Undisputed Era. There are other options, and I wouldn't mind seeing one of those other options. Velveteen Dream is it's almost like, I don't mean this in terms of legacy or anything, but Undertaker status in terms of he's a very reactionary character, and there's nobody to play to. So for me, that's kind of dull.
You mean like as far as no crowd?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they weren't thinking that this was going to be a no crowd type of situation when they started booking this too.
No, of course they didn't, but I can get that sense, but I almost feel like they might do it as just like a feel-good move to try and say, oh yeah, Velveteen Dream got his moment. He won the title, even if it wasn't in front of everybody. Because at the end of the day, they can't choose that at the moment. I mean, they can't just. The other option is to keep the titles on everybody for the far foreseeable future, because nobody will get it to win the title in front of a group of people. And we don't know how long that'll be. That could be a year. Who knows?
I hope you guys like Goldberg.
No, I feel like with NXT, you've got a little bit more flexibility than that. Something like the Goldberg thing, even though realistically it's like, well, if they had the title on Goldberg and nobody's able to wrestle and nothing's happening anyway, then what's the point? It doesn't matter. He's not like he has to do anything anyway. But I feel like with WrestleMania, and we'll talk about this, of course, next week when we start getting into Mania predictions. Or is it next week? I think it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's next week.
When we get into that whole situation, we're going to talk about the idea of like, do they have to have titles change hands and stuff? And with NXT, I don't feel like you have to do that quite as much, because if Cole retained the title, Cole's beloved, so that wouldn't be like a problem. And Cole is under contract. He's not just popping in for a one-time deal type of thing, like a John Cena type or whatever. So he could keep it pretty easily, and they could just revisit this in the future if they wanted to. But I don't know. I mean, we don't even have a match yet at this point. It's not 100% official. So if they're not able to record this ahead of time and they're not able to record it and have it for the future, the fact that Velveteen Dream beats Bobby Fish next week and we're just leading up into this Adam Cole thing with question marks means that we might not get this match for a while anyway. And by the time that we get it, it might be the type of situation where we've got a crowd and we've got the ability to have Velveteen Dream win the title and make it a big thing. And at that point, Adam Cole's been champion for a year and a half or whatever it is. So I guess for right now, I'm going to say if we get this match soon, we get it on April 15th. And if that happens, I think that Velveteen Dream wins it. Even though right now I have it listed as Adam Cole retains because, yeah, the whole Keith Lee thing throwing me off a little bit too. So, maybe I guess I should kind of pivot it that way and just say, like, if Keith Lee drops the North American title, I don't think Velveteen Dream wins it. The NXT title. But we talked about that. We talked about this. I think we pretty much talked about everything except for Gargano Ciampa. Is there anything else other than that feud that you guys think of that's going on right now that we should probably toss out our projections for?
Well, they did do the Killer Cross reveal, and that was tied into Gargano and Ciampa's promo, but I can't imagine that that will actually be tied into Gargano and Ciampa. I think they just did that promo there because it was the end of the show and they wanted to end the show with a bang. Because remember, even though, yes, they downplay the ratings battle, they are in a ratings battle, and these shows not being live shows instead of being on the network, they need to do things that will still get people to tune in. So maybe because of that, we see Killer Cross appear and attack like a Keith Lee or something. I definitely think he'll be here before we get to May.
I don't know anything really about Killer Cross. Is he good?
Yeah, he's
fun.
He's I mean, the most I've seen, the majority of the stuff that I've seen him in his Impact Wrestling stuff. I've seen bits and pieces of his work in Mexico as well. But yeah, he's very aggressive, very intense. Yeah, he's a fun worker. I think with someone with his look and his approach, he will be pushed to the main event very quickly. So I could see him. I could see him if all this gets cleared up and everything. He could be NXT champion by the end of the year.
Is he more? I'm assuming he's more of a heel, right?
Yeah.
Most of what I've seen of him, he's heel. Yeah.
So maybe we get him as North American champion. Maybe we get him as the guy who beats Adam Cole. I don't know anything about the guy, but I guess that's kind of one of the things to bring up about here is they did kind of tease that he would be a part of the Gargano Ciampa thing and give you a breakdown of what the Gargano Ciampa thing is. I'm not going to go way back to the beginning of their feud, but there's plenty of different things you can watch if you want to do that. Triple H last night on NXT did a little thing where he was basically being dad and saying like the siblings need to stop fighting. And he said that this has to end. This feud has to just definitively end. So he's going to, quote unquote, find an empty building. The two of them and a referee are going to go in there. One of them is going to leave, and that's going to be the end of it. And if they continue to feud going forward beyond that point, they're both going to leave NXT. And the phrasing that he used was NXT will move on without you, and you don't have to worry about being the heart and soul of NXT if you're not here, like that kind of a thing. So this, at least according to their premise, which they can go back on because they've done it plenty of times in the past with the whole like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are the last match they're ever going to have until 2 weeks from now, and like different things like that. We've gotten Johnny Gargano is kicked out of NXT and then he comes back a couple weeks. We've gotten the end of this feud. Like Gargano said it himself. He said this feud was already supposed to end last year or so. So they could just go back to this anytime that they want. But do you think that this is going to be the definitive end?
Yes, I think Triple H takes himself seriously and would not want to put that out there and then get caught in a bullshit lie.
No, they'll wrestle again.
I mean, they'll wrestle again, but they won't wrestle again for a little while, like 6 months to a year.
That's news like going back. It's like saying, okay, Cody's going to be AEW world champion in the next 2 months or so. It's like, yeah, for me, that's going back on the promise too quickly if they do it. And I expect them to do it, but it means that this stipulation doesn't actually mean anything.
How do you guys feel about this being in the empty arena type thing? Because some people are trying to be looking at this glass half full with every little thing because, you know, some people are just that type. And, you know, I know like Seth Rollins had said like, oh, this is great that we're actually going to have that match against Owens at the Performance Center because it's the best environment for what I don't buy into a lot of that kind of crap to begin with. But with Gargano and Ciampa, I mean, this was meant to be like a huge, huge deal and something that should have ended in front of a big crowd. And it's not happening. So if this is the end of it, does that work? Or is it just going to seem like you should have just held off and not done it?
They're one of the only feuds that while I completely think it deserves to be in front of a crowd, because of the length and seriousness of the rivalry, they can get away with it being in an empty arena brawl.
Yeah, I think these two have got like enough of a backstory and enough of the history surrounding them. They would be able to get away with doing it without needing to go through have a crowd in front of them. I think they can tell enough of the story without it.
Who wins? Because to me, I can't see either of them winning.
But one of them has to win.
Not necessarily. It could be a draw.
Oh, that would be. I mean, that's an even more of a bullshit way of saying, like, okay, you can settle in this.
Yeah, that's worse than them wrestling again as soon as everything comes back to normal. If you go, this has to be it. Oh, nobody won, so you have to do it again.
I mean, it's going to be odd. I think that there's probably going to be. It could go for an hour. It could be like multiple finishes. That may be the best part about this match in particular is because there's nobody's either champion or there's no real stakes attached to it other than the fact it's just the ending of this rivalry that either person could win and you could just justify it. I think they'll probably end up going with Gargano winning.
The shitty thing is that Gargano is the heel now because the story should have ended with Gargano finally beating Ciampa for the belt, and that's it. But with Ciampa as the babyface now, and this needing to be a definitive end, maybe Ciampa has to win.
I don't understand their philosophy behind making Gargano the heel twice.
Did you make him the heel twice?
Well, technically, I guess he did the heel thing with the other people, but like that, he's twice turned heel, and I feel like the first time that they had him turn, it was kind of this, like, let's test that out, and let's see what happens, and we could always backtrack, and we could just go, oh, it's misdirect, like that kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think that this was the right call to have made, to have him turn heel and have him go in as the heel for this feud. I get that in some ways you're like, well, how do we end the whole Cole and Ciampa thing? How do we get back to this point and all that? But Gargano as a heel doesn't work to me.
See, I was alright with the first time because they were clearly ready to play it off as it's Gargano luring Ciampa into a false sense of security. This time around, it just seems so like they wanted him to be the definitive heel, and it's not the way I want the story to end. But the story has to end here because they can't fight for 3 years on end. You know what I mean?
What if they follow the crowd, fight forever, and they actually just, say, fine, we will.
The matches would be good, but eventually you do run out of things to do.
I think they framed Gargano's heel turn well in this regard, of him being just angry at it's because at the end of the day, it's him just going back against Ciampa because Ciampa was a dick to him first, like ages and ages and ages ago. Still all resonating back to there, and his hatred stems from the fact that the fans have embraced Ciampa as a babyface again, even though he didn't do anything change. He just broke his neck and came back. So he's very justifiable in his heel actions, but I think that the thing that's making him a heel is because he doesn't like. It's not so much the his animosity towards Ciampa; it's the fact that he's aggressive towards like wrestling fans for embracing Ciampa back as a babyface. So that's why I think the heel turn works.
I guess if I had to pick, I'd go with Gargano winning. And that way, if we do get Velveteen Dream winning the championship, that we can maybe get Gargano Dream going forward. I could see Killer Cross maybe costing Ciampa the match and starting a feud with him. That might work.
I think that would be a bit. I mean, even though it's like with a feud that's been as long and as underlying in the entire history of NXT as this, I feel like having some sort of screwy finish to it would absolutely diminish everything.
I'll give you a good example of this from when I was younger. Cena and Edge fought in every single match, and they finally got to the point where they were like, "Oh, we're gonna end it. This is it. No more." They did a last man standing match, and they legitimately got up out of all these moves, and it was crazy. And then the Big Show cost Cena the match, and then it just takes away from the sting of, oh, what a feud ender. So I want to see this end between Johnny and Ciampa, and if they do have any kind of interference, then I'm gonna say it wasn't worth doing. You should have just left it alone.
Well, they could also go in a direction where, like, Ciampa and Gargano fight, there's a definitive end, and Killer Cross then attacks Ciampa or something like that.
Oh, you could do that, definitely.
Like,
that's fine.
If that's the case, then I think Ciampa wins. I guess it kind of depends on that. If their game plan is Ciampa versus Cross, then they sort of need to have a little bit of momentum on that side. But if their game plan is Gargano and Dream, then Gargano needs a little bit of momentum as well. So we'll find out on April 8th. There has yet to be any kind of stipulation added to the match. They haven't announced that. So it might be last man standing. It might be an Iron Man match. It might be just a regular match. I'm assuming it's just a regular match.
They did announce it. It was basically Hunter saying that I'm giving you a referee, but it's only to declare that it's over. It basically means they're going to beat the shit out of each other. It'll be another, like, what is this, their third at this point? Non-sanctioned, no holds barred.
Street fight.
Yeah.
Belfast brawl kind of thing.
But it'll be one of those again. Now, real quick.
Orange County Chaos or something.
When he was building it up, didn't it sound like he was about to go, you guys deserve the biggest stage. I'm putting you on WrestleMania. I almost thought he was going there.
It felt like that to me.
I almost thought he was going to say WrestleMania.
I think they wanted to get the impression that Triple H was going to say that, but they didn't want to do that. Like they said, they don't want the grandest stage. They just want to just give us a building and we'll just fight it out. That type of thing.
Which he was going. As wrestlers, not the smartest thing to say. No, I don't want to fight at WrestleMania. Fuck that.
Well, at this year's WrestleMania, doesn't matter.
That's true.
You know, McIntyre even recently said, like, well, this isn't how I imagined my WrestleMania happening and all that. It's just so depressing. It's a shame. But it's happening nonetheless, nevertheless, whatever the phrase is, I don't know. Words are words. And it seems like TakeOver Tampa, obviously that's not happening, but we're getting TakeOver Tampa-esque episodes of NXT going forward. And we don't know where this is going to go beyond April 8th. Maybe they've recorded some other things. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they will be able to. Maybe they won't. If it comes down to it and April 8th is the end of these recordings and we get a bunch of weeks of no NXT stuff, then we'll do some kind of retrospective recap of this whole situation because we can't really do a post show. It's not like we're going to do like the NXT post show next week and NXT post show the week after that and so on and so forth. So you might not get your review content the way that you normally would, but depending on what the whole scenario is, maybe we'll do some kind of recap thing, or maybe we'll do that as like a Darkcast thing, or maybe we'll do that as some kind of live discussion. I don't know. I can't give you any kind of promises, but I will promise you that in any capacity, if we are able to do some things, then we're going to try to do some things. So stay tuned for all that. And I think that that's pretty much everything that's happening with NXT right now, other than just, hey, Tyler Breeze is feuding with Austin Theory. What do you think about that? Or like, is Tyler Breeze fucking Mackenzie Mitchell? I don't know. Maybe. Kind of seems like it. So on and so forth. I did I think all my plugs. If not, you should know them by now. Kind of not in the mood to go back and double check. But these guys have plugs as well. So Callum, toss out any you want to toss out.
Not too many in this regards as per usual. Just check out all the articles on smarkmoment.com, including the power rankings, which is becoming a lot harder to write now. There's no matches really going on, but I'm still plugging away regardless. And you can follow me on Twitter at WeekMost14.
You know, it's funny. I thought about doing something that I had done a couple weeks for Bleacher Report, which was the MVP 3, picking who's the MVP of Monday Night Raw, the MVP of NXT, and the MVP of SmackDown each week. Thought about doing that from Elimination Chamber up until WrestleMania, like leading into that kind of thing. And then I was just like, how do you do?
They're not letting you, Tony.
How do you do?
I mean, who'll be the MVP of that episode of NXT where they didn't have any matches? It would be the production team. Making those documentaries together.
At that point, it's the MVP Triple H for standing there and saying, "So, Tom, you got a beard?" At that point, Rob, what plugs you got?
Follow WrestleZone and Fightful as the world continues to change around us, and we try to figure out what the hell is going on. You can follow me on Twitter at DudeFleece and Instagram as well. And yeah, that's about it. Just stay safe, everybody.
Turn the page, wash your hands, stop hanging around people. It doesn't matter if you're all NXT. Stand 6 feet apart. And
That's right.
How big is the ring?
20 by 20.
20 by 20? Oh, all right. You don't have to stand on opposite turnbuckles, but, you know. It is kind of weird when I see, like, for instance, last night we're watching Dynamite and Jimmy Havoc goes out of his way to shake Cody Rhodes' hand and then immediately wipe his face. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's great. That's exactly what you want to see. But
well, he's dangerous. I mean, he's hardcore.
Yeah, how much do you expect from a guy who has a staple gun to his forehead and stuff? So NXT is going to roll along the way that it is, and we'll talk about things when we're able to talk about them, and we'll go back and see how this all plays out. So in the meantime, tell us your predictions in the comments below, and stay tuned for whatever else we've got coming your way. It seems like WrestleMania is going to be our predictions for next week. We'll try to do that the way that we normally would, where we'll do predictions on, I don't know, say Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and then do a post show on Saturday and Sunday. And hopefully nothing happens that gets in the way of that. But if you stay tuned to the Facebook and the Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, the Megamaniacs Facebook group, and the comments here and comments on SmarkOutMoment.com, we'll update you with anything that we need to update you on. And we will see you next time, everybody. Thank you for listening to this. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.